One of the members of the infamous Liyue Big 3 is now coming back for his third rerun on version 3.4. Version 3.4 is considered as a Lantern White patch, and thus, we've been blessed, or cursed, by another Xiao banner. Xiao is on the first phase of this version alongside Alhaitham, who is the newest 5-star character of Genshin Impact. So with another rerun arises the same batch of questions that the community has been asking since version 2.4. Which was the patch when Xiao had his first rerun? Is Xiao still worth it? Do I pull for him? Do I risk my chances on his weapon banner? Is it difficult to build him? What are his best teams and his best supports? Although these questions have been the same for Xiao's whole existence as a Genshin character, the answers have actually quite started to change since the start of version 2.7, which was Xiao's second rerun alongside Yellen. So now you're wondering, what is Xiao's absolute state in the game in 2023? Buckle up as we are going to talk about the changes that Xiao has went through ever since his release in 2021. Xiao on release was pretty much an anticipated character. Up until now, his popularity is still acknowledged by most of the community. His relevance to the game's story, plus Hoyoverse's amazing and effective ways of promoting him, can probably be attributed to the success of all the versions that he has been on. During the time of his release, the community was still looking for more DPS characters to add on their roster, as there were a few of them that time. So when Xiao was announced, people were already decided on pulling on his banner despite Ganyu's banner being right next to his. As crazy as it sounds, that's just the way Genshin Impact was back then, considering that every new limited 5-star character had untapped potential and there weren't a lot of comparisons in terms of the DPS that they can offer. Unlike now wherein if you're not as good of a DPS as He1 Hu Tao or C0 Ayaka, you're automatically a mid-tier DPS. Jokes aside, Xiao is one of the earliest on-field damage dealers that Genshin Impact has released on the limited banner, alongside Klee, Tartaglia, and Ganyu. Additionally, he is the first on-field main DPS to wield an Anemo Vision. At that point, people already wanted him since he was such a unique character with, I would say, one of the most unique playstyles in the game. But be warned because Xiao is a selfish on-field DPS. Most on-field main DPS characters are reaction-based, meaning they rely on their supports not just to increase their own damage, but their team's overall damage as well. Meanwhile, Xiao's Anemo Vision prevents him from doing all of these reactions, as Swirl is the only Anemo reaction and it's a really bad option for him. Not only that, Xiao wants all the buffs for himself. He doesn't do anything for his team, unlike let's say Child helping Xiangling with her constant vaporizes. This is why all of Xiao's teams require supports to funnel all the buffs, energy, and protection for Xiao. Xiao's overall kit is the definition of putting the game's basic mechanics into overdrive. His E ability is a dash that allows you to go through small enemies while dealing damage to every single one, which was a big thing during that time considering that most enemies you have to encounter are just straight up hilichurls or slimes. This dash can also be used mid-air, meaning that with Xiao's passive talent, which reduces climbing stamina for all party members, and the Anemo Resonance, which Xiao is already a part of, Xiao is considered as one of, if not the best exploration unit in the game. The overall scaling on his abilities shouldn't be overlooked either. His Q or his burst ability is one of the most unique bursts in the game. Looking back at what I said at the start, this ability puts a basic game mechanic, which is plunging, to maximum overdrive. This ability lets Xiao transform into a state wherein he receives Anemo Infusion on all of his attacks plus greatly increased jumping height. So basically, his burst allows you to plunge unlimitedly for the burst's entire duration. Personally, this is the main reason why I like playing Xiao. The plunge playstyle is just super fun for me and I still enjoy using him to this day. But of course, there are some people who don't like it too, mainly those who get motion sickness from the plunges. Moving on with the rest of his kit, Xiao's Constellations are honestly underwhelming for a limited 5-star. This is why it's never recommended to pull for his cons, even if you're a low spender, because they're really sad compared to the other limited 5-star constellations. Though if you're trying to look for his best constellations, I would say that it's C1 and C6, with C1 being unnecessary to his overall gameplay, but can be a decent upgrade if you decide to get it. His C1 provides you with an extra charge on his elemental skill, which means more damage and more energy particles for Xiao. But as I said, it is unnecessary because C0 can already provide you with enough energy to get your burst back up if you play Xiao with his proper team. His C6, on the other hand, basically changes Xiao's whole plunge playstyle into a dash-centered one. While I do agree that it is a great constellation to have, is it really worth it to spend all that money to get the C6 while getting subpar constellations on the way? Well, for whales, it is. But for the average player, I don't think so. So if you're thinking of pulling for Xiao's constellations as an average player, I would definitely recommend you to just skip them entirely because C0 is more than enough for him to function properly. Unless of course, you like Xiao a lot. Then by all means, do what you gotta do. As for Xiao's weapon options, there aren't a lot of choices for F2P players. While his best weapon, which is the primordial jade-winged spear, can be gotten on the standard banner, you have to be really lucky as an F2P player to get that. Or just lose a 5-star pity on the limited weapon banner and hope that it's the Jade Spear. But again, it's not worth it. His other best options include the Staff of Homa, Vortex Vanquisher, Calamity Queller, and recently the Staff of Scarlet Sands, which are all in the limited weapon banner. One of his 4-star options is locked behind the Battle Pass, which is the Deathmatch. Another option would be the Lithic Spear, but once again, it's tied to the limited weapon banner. To cut it short, his best F2P options would be the Missive Wind Spear, which is a free event weapon that cannot be obtained anymore after 3.1, the Blackcliff Pole, which can be bought in the in-game shop, and the White Tassel, which is his best 3-star weapon option. Also, the Favonius Lance can work if you're feeling a little spicy. Now, with Xiao's kit out of the way, let's talk about if it's still worth pulling for him in 2023. Well, the answer actually depends on a lot of factors, but overall, I would say yes. He's a powerful Anemo DPS that despite being a selfish one, actually does the job because for now, the Spiral Abyss is the ultimate test of team synergy, and Xiao's main teams as of the moment are more than enough to clear everything up to floor 12. His pull value definitely increased after version 2.6 though, because at the start of his second rerun banner on version 2.7, he already had a dedicated artifact set, namely the Vermilion Hereafter set. And while technically it only has a 10 to 15% damage increase from his traditional 2-piece Anemo damage, 2-piece attack percent set, it is still great to farm for if you're actually willing to invest a lot of time and effort on your Xiao. But more than that, his pull value definitely peaked on version 3.3 because of the release of a character that wasn't directly intended for him, but for another 5-star Anemo character who is also an on-field main DPS like Xiao. Enter Faruzan. Faruzan is an Anemo support who specializes in buffing Anemo damage, and is basically everything Xiao could ask for. Though she was conceived as a dedicated support for Wanderer, she's still considered as the best general buffer for Anemo DPS characters, such as Xiao and Heizo. Do note that a lot of controversy and discussions have popped up ever since Faruzan was released. The main controversy she had faced as a character is her usefulness at C0. Don't get me wrong, Faruzan is still a great Anemo damage buffer even at C0, but her utility and her energy recharge requirements are abysmal without constellations. This is why most people who use Faruzan tend to go for 300% energy recharge or even more because it's that important for her. But at C6, she becomes a totally different character that can honestly be called broken for a 4-star dedicated support. At C6, she has lesser energy recharge requirements, a bonus 40% crit damage for all Anemo damage dealt by the characters affected by her burst, and to top it all off, extra crowd control to enhance the quote-unquote Anemo experience. It is safe to say that if you have a well-invested Faruzan in your roster, Xiao can already be considered as a good pull on your account. But what if you had the Wanderer? Will Xiao still be worth it? Wanderer is a newly released limited 5-star character that functions almost the same with Xiao, just with different gameplay. They are both good on doing the same thing, which is to deal on-field Anemo damage. Their main teams are also very similar to the point that they're both interchangeable depending on who you need for which situation. The only differences are, Xiao has an edge over Wanderer when it comes to AoE situations. And while Xiao's solo target capabilities aren't as bad, Wanderer still has the edge over him on this category. Also, Wanderer has range and is better for frisky, flying enemies unlike Xiao. who unfortunately can't even damage the enemies caught in Venti's burst consistently. Now it's time for the final verdict. What is Xiao's absolute state for 2023? And is it still worth pulling for him at this point? My answer still stands, and yes, it is still worth pulling for him. But it ultimately depends on your account's overall state. Even if you don't have Faruzan, or thinking of farming for his dedicated artifact set, getting Xiao can still bring a lot of positives for your account. If you have Wanderer on the other hand, yes, they do have the same role, they function almost the same, but they're at least interchangeable, and have situations wherein one is more useful than the other. Aside from these factors, if you just want Xiao because you like his character, playstyle, or just a collector in general, Genshin Impact is a PvE game after all, and it is okay to not stick by the meta. And that's it for my Xiao recap for 2023. I hope all the key points I stated on this guide helped you out a lot. I appreciate you dropping a like and subscribing so I can continue making amazing videos for you guys. As usual, thanks for watching and I wish you luck in your 50/50s. Bye!